Hey, all you Arizona lovers. This is the Finding Arizona podcast, episode number 371. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Today's guest is the wonderful CEO behind Squeeze Massage, also one of the founders behind Dry Bar. Brittany is so fantastic to talk to. Very smart, very intelligent, very intuitive and notive of like a lot of things in her streamlined business that she has going on multiple platforms. So it's just really great to kind of get and pick at her brain to understand what makes everything work so well, what makes everything flow so well. We have such an incredible episode today. So stay tuned for everything that she has to say, and stay tuned for everything that we have to offer you through our business at findingarizonapodcast.com. We have everything also available at Finding Arizona Podcast on YouTube. So we have both the vlog and the actual episodes going up now. And on top of that, if you want to follow us on social media, Finding Arizona Podcast on all social media platforms. Sorry about that. I just want to say that we have just been working our butts off on certain things, and we have been just working, constantly. Today is actually Brittany's birthday. She's out and about on an event, a women's empowerment event. Some of you may know it in the local area as Powerhouse Women. So if you have a chance to go say happy birthday to Brittany, I encourage you to do so. She's absolutely fantastic as a producer, but even better as a mother and a wife. I really do appreciate her on all different occasions. She has so much to offer everyone that she comes across, and she is wonderful and caring. And so happy birthday to Britt. On top of that, we hope you guys are enjoying these episodes that are available on video platforms so that we can share with you the visuals. But if you guys have someone that you want to come in next, please send us a line at findingarizonapodcast@gmail.com. I will try my best to make that happen. Upcoming things to upcome. There is an episode with a previous guest, Dakota Jean. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. She is now doing some social media managing. On top of that, we have some other episodes that we cannot just disclose just yet, but we're super excited because we are going to be recording that over the weekend. And on top of everything else, we hope that you guys stay tuned with us on social media and everything in between. We will catch you on the next episode. As always, kisses, hugs, and belly rubs. We'll see you next time.
Who is a no woman?
She's ambitious.
She is a juggling life.
Oh, she is high performing.
She's self-made.
Definitely busy.
Woman supporter.
Cares about the rooms that she's going into.
Building an empire.
Definitely working in a male-dominated industry.
She is competitive.
And cares about impact.
And she's inspired by the word no.
Oh, completely relentless.
She is self-made.
She is a badass.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Finding Arizona podcast. I'm your host, Jose. As always, we bring in fantastic guests every week, and today is no different. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd love to introduce you to Brittany. And Brittany, I have an intro here for you. So if you give me a moment, I would love to kind of spell this out for everyone. Brittany is the co-founder, CEO of Squeeze, a completely fresh approach to a way better massage experience, and also Feel Good Company, a collective of wellness brands dedicated to bettering the mind, body, and soul of the customers and the team members. On top of all of that, I want to just share she's the co-founder of OK Humans, the future of face-to-face talk therapy, and Brightside, an infrared yoga and sauna studio. Please welcome Brittany. Brittany, thank you.
Hi, Jose. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So under all of that umbrella, I just like to just give you kudos and snaps for just having the wherewithal to keep that all under your head and keep that all organized and keep it going. And as a brand, as individual brands, as an overall kind of umbrella corporation, so to speak, I always ask this of every person who comes in through our doors is, can you give us a little bit of your origin story? I know a lot. I would love our audience to hear it from the horse's mouth, as they say.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I always like to preface all of that with, none of it would be possible without a really great team. I'm fortunate to work with brilliant, wonderful people, and nothing great is really achieved alone. And so I get to be here talking to you today, but there's a whole force behind me making all the magic happen. Yeah, so just by way of quick background, I started my career in marketing and advertising. I got the chance to work with really great brands early on in my career. Coca-Cola, Disney, Hilton, Barbie and Hot Wheels were a few of my favorites. I always actually like to give a nod to my Hot Wheels experience because it really kind of set my entrepreneurial journey, if you will. It's funny how you can look back on life and connect the dots.
Yeah.
Hot Wheels, I ran a project called Hot Wheels for Real. I was the project manager. And so I kind of sat in between all of the different departments in making this happen. Most people don't know, but the little toy cars are actually designed to scale. And so we built
Nice.
for real. We worked with the world's best race car drivers, everyone from Mario Andretti to Danica Patrick to all the guys who, drive in Fast and Furious and the commercials that you see on TV. And we built stunts and subverted major athletic events from the Indianapolis 500 to the X Games. At the Indy 500, we built a 100-foot door, sent an 800 horsepower truck down it, broke a world record for the longest four-wheel jump. The next year at the X Games, we built a double loop,
Yes.
the iconic double loop, sent
Yep.
2 cars through it. We had a whole content series online and, toys for kids that went along with it. But the reason that I mentioned that is just because it was such a great example and really living proof for me that with a big vision and the right people in place, truly anything is possible.
Awesome.
And so I loved that experience. I loved Hot Wheels and kind of the adventure and adrenaline that came from everything in creating that. But at the time, Drybar had actually come onto the scene, and I was a personal fan, went all the time, and they eventually were looking for a head of marketing. So in 2013, I joined the the Drybar team, left the Hot Wheels. I left Hot Wheels for hot air, if you will.
Nice.
And and I got to build that company from, or help build it from 25 million to over 100 million. It was the ride of a lifetime. We opened over 60 doors, onboarded several franchisees, launched the product line into all prestige retail. It was really, truly the ride of a lifetime.
Absolutely.
But I've always been an entrepreneurial spirit at heart. And so I got the itch to get back into building mode after being with Drybar for about 4 years. And the Drybar founders had always had this other idea in the back of their minds to create a way better massage experience, but they didn't really have the bandwidth to do it. And so the stars aligned, and that's kind of what brought me to starting Squeeze.
That's awesome. I love every single thing that you just spoke about because there's little bits that I'd like to pull out and just kind of ask you about in that first portion, which is Hot Wheels and kind of the different brands that you were working with. How did you choose, or I guess, how did you end up in that position, or did you seek out that position and just kind of ended up working with these brands, or what was the lead up to that?
Yeah, so I was a communications major in college, which I always joke is the major you choose when you don't know what you want to do. You just know you want to do as few math classes as possible or take as few math classes.
I get it.
Yeah, so but I was really fortunate. I had a really great internship early on. My junior year, I went and interned for an experiential marketing firm. I actually worked on Hot Wheel, or I keep saying Hot Wheels, Home Depot's grand openings.
Okay.
Funny, I look back, I feel like I've kind of gone full circle in supporting brick and mortar, openings and whatnot. But from there, I worked in agencies for the first decade of my career. And so I got a chance to work with all of these brands just through the agencies that I was a part of. But I will say with Hot Wheels and Barbie, with Mattel in particular, I actually did seek out that business. Mattel was literally, I could see their building out of my office.
Oh.
I was working with, and I was working on Toyota at that time, doing their direct mail for all of their new car launches. And don't get me wrong, that was cool and exciting and lots of learnings, but I felt like working on Hot Wheels and Barbie would be a ton more fun. And so I tried to figure out, what business we could help support them with. And they ultimately were looking for an agency to help get their promotions business off the ground. We actually didn't have any promotional experience within our agency, but a sister agency did. And so we kind of just made it happen, which again, I feel like that whole experience for me was just such a good example of how you build a business. Like you don't really know how to do it all. You just kind of put the pieces in place and find the right people and you learn as you go. And so I do feel really fortunate to have worked with all those great brands early on.
I mean, also, what a beautiful kind of like overlaps and juxtaposition of where you're at. You're working with Toyota, and then you're looking out your window and just like thinking to yourself, like, what's the next step? Like, what's the next thing? And you just like seeing this, toy brand, so to speak, Mattel, right there in your eye line, and it's just like how beautiful that you went from like, these major cars to these replica cars and these like just brands that needed help and just wanted to push the envelope a little bit. I think that's so amazing because a lot of people find themselves stuck in that kind of rut of like, what am I going to do next? Or what can I do to expand myself or give myself the expanding of my network? So beautiful way of going about it. And just kind of, I love hearing that story. Now, you brought in Dry Bar and talking about just kind of your love for it and just the joy. Can you give us a little bit of like, how many times a month or were you going in there?
Yeah, absolutely. At Dry Bar, we always used to say that it wasn't blowouts that we were selling. It was the happiness and confidence that came with the blowout, because when you look good, you feel good. And when you feel good, you could take on the world. And that was very much the feeling that I had every time I went into Dry Bar. I probably in the beginning went once a month, but I got up to weekly because it was one of those things where I realized it saved me time. I could sit in the chair and I could knock out like 20 emails while someone was blow drying my hair. It lasted far longer than when I did it myself. And the experience really just kind of gave me that boost and that feel good energy going into the week, if you will. And I really loved what it stood for. Allie, who is now a dear friend of mine, but at the time was just this entrepreneur that I read about on the internet. She was really inspirational. She was a stay-at-home mom. She was a hairstylist. She was always looking for the perfect blowout. There wasn't anything that existed that kind of met that need. And so she created it, which I think is another really great example of entrepreneurship and just this idea that anything is possible. The best ideas often come from an existing behavior or thing that already is in existence, but it can just be done better. And chances are, if you feel like something can be done better, so do a lot of other people. And that's really what Allie did. Was she just created a place that she wished existed, and a lot of other women agreed with her as well. So it was a really, really special experience.
I've heard the saying about like when you're inventing or just creating in general is not to reinvent the wheel sort of thing. And so I think that kind of is a testament to that as well. I'd love to just get into now Squeeze, and you had brought up the story of just like they had the thought and just kind of that, what was that conversation like, or what were they bringing to you and to the conversation, like to the table of like what ideas they had and things like that, to make you have that aha moment of like, let's just do it. Like, let's go about it.
Yeah. Well, we'd gotten to the point at Dry Bar where we were opening shop after shop. We were launching product after product. And, I realized at that point in my career that I really thrive in a bit of the chaos and of the unknown, like building to get to the replicable instances. And once you get there, it's a little boring for me. I want a different challenge. Sure. And that had kind of gotten there. I built out the team and I was just itching to get back into building mode. And so I just let them know. I actually didn't know what I wanted to do. I do feel like this is such a good lesson in not burning bridges and also feeling comfortable enough to be honest with your bosses. Oftentimes these will support you if you put in the work. And so I just went to them and I said, I feel like someone else can come in and really take this to the next level. I've kind of done what I wanted to do and I'm looking for my next challenge. I don't really know what I want to do, but I'll help support you through the bridge. We'll find someone and, I'm moving on. And it was at that point that they had reminded me about this idea. Squeeze it wasn't that name yet, but it was just this idea for a better massage experience. And I actually took about 3 months to research and determine if I really wanted to start something from scratch. I really thought I would go into like the next Dry Bar and take my learnings and do it all over again. And, starting something from scratch is a totally different beast. And so the more research I did on massage, we were all avid massage goers. I can attest, they literally did talk about it all the time when we were building Dry Bar. Gosh, this would be so great if we could apply a lot of these learnings to the massage space. But what got me really excited after I started to research was essentially demand for massage is endless. And, we're now post-pandemic in an even better position in that, 80% of Americans are focusing more on their self-care. Massage in and of itself is a necessity more than a luxury today. So, all of those things checked the box. And I knew that we could create a better experience, a better brand, and, way of booking and all of that, which I'll speak to in a second. But the thing that got me the most excited was actually the opportunity to create a better place for massage therapists to come to work. I felt like, there weren't a lot of brands and businesses out there that had set themselves up for success in that way. And at the end of the day, all we were doing is selling people's time. And so it was so important to me that those people felt celebrated and valued and seen for who they were, first and foremost as individuals, before the contribution to the company. So I love people, and it's as I get older and I've had more opportunity to manage people and experience different personalities, it's the thing that gets me the most excited. And so I just felt like, gosh, this is a really cool opportunity, and I feel like I would love to do it, and I think we could do it really meaningfully. And so that's kind of how that conversation unfolded.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's incredible that I'm looking at from where it is now, and I'd love to kind of bring back the conversation about the pandemic. Can you give us kind of a view of like that timeline of like when the pandemic started, where Squeeze was and where you guys are now? Because I'd love to just understand it a little bit more in depth of building out that brand and building out that kind of clientele as well too, and providing not only for those who are looking for a new experience, but also, like you said, the team members that are a part of the Squeeze family.
Yeah, absolutely. So we started building the concept in September of 2017, and we opened our first doors in March of 2019. So it took us about 18 months from concept to launch. So we were open March of 2019. So in Studio City in Los Angeles, California, that's where the flagship was headquartered. And we were open for just shy of a year before COVID and the world shut down. And, it was a really scary time. It was so uncertain. And I know we all know that feeling because we all collectively lived it. But, I'll tell you that first year was amazing. I mean, we exceeded every expectation we had. The team that we built, a lot of them still with us today, were incredible. They brought the whole experience and, magic to life, if you will. And guests loved it, and I should talk really quickly about what makes Squeeze different, and then I'll get back to the COVID piece. But essentially our tagline, speaking back to the idea of, taking existing experiences, is a way better massage experience. And it's primarily just because that's all we did, was we took an existing experience and we made it slightly better. And we addressed all the things that we wish existed in the experience that didn't, which is another point to just that same idea that the best ideas, I think, really come out of personal frustration. And the things we were solving for were easy to book. You had to call prior to Squeeze, you had to call individual locations. You had to remember which massage therapist you liked. You have to tell someone over and over about your preferences. And then probably the worst part, after your relaxing massage, you have to stand in line. You're asked about tipping. There's, the clunky checkout. So at Squeeze, we've really solved for all of those components. We have an end-to-end app or website experience that enables our guests to book, set all their personalized preferences prior to even walking in, so the therapist knows exactly what you want each and every time. You're able to read therapist bios on the app. You can read other guest reviews, which was really important to us. And then there's additional personalized components within the experience. When you get into the shop, we have an interactive aromatherapy bar. You can choose your scent, let your therapist know what you want to apply. We have a really relaxing lounge, refreshment bar. When you get into the suite, which is what we call our rooms, there's 6 different music playlists that you can choose from. There's mints and hair ties. There's a phone charging station. Probably one of everyone's favorite feature, both guests and therapists, is that we have a ready button on the table. So you as the guest let the therapist know when you're ready for them to re-enter. Again, like eliminating a lot of the awkward experiences and interactions that can exist that did exist prior to Squeeze. And then post massage, like Uber and Postmates, you rate, tip, and review all at your leisure. So not having to stay in that checkout line. No one's awkwardly asking you about tipping. You get to stay in that relaxed state of mind. We like to say guests walk in and float out. So that's the idea behind Squeeze. And again, we were off to a really strong start, and then COVID. And our story with COVID, I'll tell you, I'm convinced now that the most successful people are not the best educated, experienced, well connected. Obviously, those things help. But more so, I think it's just the people who keep going and don't give up.
Absolutely.
And that's our story, because we were shut down in March of 2020. We didn't get to reopen again until almost a year and a half later.
Wow.
We're in Los Angeles. Yeah, we had, a few weeks here and there that we were able to open in the in between, but then got shut down again. And
Yep.
And through that time, we just kind of, we like hunkered down. We knew that we wanted to scale this business through franchising. So, and the key to franchising is documentation and process and systems. So we just, crossed our T's, we dotted our I's, we thought about how we could be, the best coming out of this that we possibly could. And today we have more than 75 locations in development across the country. And I couldn't be, more grateful or thankful for the team that helped us get here. And then also, the initial operating partner group, which is what we call our franchisees, who believed in the vision and who saw what this brand could be, from this, one little 4-wall location on Ventura Boulevard.
Well, in all honesty, too, I mean, just from our perspective here from our podcast, is just like, as we continue to ask these questions as far as the pandemic goes, I've always been able to gain this kind of, like you said, those who want to stay afloat will stay afloat. They have the wherewithal to want to keep going and the motivation to keep going. So, I have just been very pleasantly surprised at those who come through our doors, giving us their story through COVID and helping us understand that there is a silver lining in such a chaotic time, and seeing that come through, especially with your story. Being shut down for over a year and a half is not easy for anyone. You're not making revenue, you're not doing, it's very hard. And so I love hearing that you guys made the look inside, like you asked yourselves what keeps us better than the rest, or what keeps us afloat, and really chose to pivot towards that and look inward. And that's what happened, I feel like, for everyone who was going through the pandemic, is just looking inward and saying, okay, what do I bring to the table that keeps me better and keeps me afloat and keeps us in the community that we are helping our clientele valued at. So that's just really great that you guys have been able to not only stay afloat, but also, levitate even more as the years have gone forward. So thank you again for sharing that kind of timeline, because I always say it's always important, because it affected everyone, no matter who you are, where you're from. It affected everyone on a giant monumental scale. So I do have a slight question, just because I'm curious, and it was in your bio. You're a cancer survivor.
Yeah.
And I'd love to just understand where that came into your life in the timeline of this whole thing and your businesses, and how you bring that, the kind of what you believe in, what your kind of daily kind of motivation because of it, or everything and anything, because I feel like for you in particular, as a co-founder and as a creator, that affects you on a monumental scale personally. So I'd love to understand that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's nothing kind of more life altering than getting a diagnosis that could potentially, change the course of things forever. I was diagnosed with melanoma at 25.
Okay.
And, thankfully it was phase 2. So I've got a big old ice cream scoop in the bottom of my lower left leg. There went my modeling career.
Okay.
That survivor scar to show for it, but thankfully, that was really the extent to my recovery, although I have since had, several checkups and whatnot to remain healthy. But I think what that experience really taught me is that life is short. I mean, it's such a cliche.
Yeah.
It's very true. And, every single day that we're given is a gift and an opportunity to impact each other for the better, to show up for yourself in a way that when you're on your deathbed and you look back, you'll be real happy with all the decisions that you made. And, as big and heavy as that sounds, that's really how I approach life. And so I think that's kind of why I'm doing all these things that I am doing, is I really feel like, it's an opportunity to take the experience and learnings that I've had to impact other people for the better.
Yeah.
Our vision at Squeeze is to transform communities for good. And going back to just your commentary around kind of making it through the pandemic, Simon Sinek has a book, Start With Why, which if you haven't read, highly recommend it. But it talks a lot about how great brands need to stand for something more than the product or the service that they're selling. There needs to be values and a vision and a mission behind what you're doing that makes it meaningful. And
absolutely.
For me, that's what it's all about. We're able to use the power of massage to be the best part of people's day, but we take the responsibility and how we serve our guests and each other far beyond that. It's how we talk to each other, it's how we show up, it's how we help, it's how we create little moments to make people feel seen. And that's really purposeful. It feels meaningful. It feels exciting to get up every day, to be a part of a team that all, shares those same values.
Yeah.
And and so, I don't really think about all the time being a cancer survivor, but I do think a lot of the mentality and how I show up every day stems from that experience.
Well, I just, again, it kind of brings another perspective of like, a lot of your business kind of comes around the health and wellness kind of aspect, and just seeing what you're about, and it's kind of your, like you said, your values and what you bring to the table. So I love hearing that from you, because it's just like, I know how much it affects an individual on a mental and physical scale, but to bring that kind of what you've learned from the experience from that and bringing it into the things that you work in, because again, no matter who we are, when things like that happen, it always affects every aspect of our life, whether that's, our careers or our personal life at home and things like that. So again, I always kind of find it fascinating just to, bring it all into perspective of what you do for a living and how you live your life and the values that you bring to it. It's just so interconnected. So I love hearing that, because the story comes to life a little bit more, because again, it's like, you have such a wonderful, and I'll be the first to say this, like the experience that I had with Squeeze was fantastic. I give it 100%. One of the best massages that I've ever had. And again, all those little details that you brought in and this wellness aspect, it's just so you can feel it all the way through, from when you step in the door to when you're picking out the aroma, to when you're picking out the music, and then in the actual massage itself too. It's just, again, 100% like catered and valued and personal to the individual. So I think that you have something really great here.
I'm so glad to hear that. I'm so appreciative that you took the time to do it, and I'm glad that you did, because to your point, health is wealth. And that's another thing that I feel I've learned as I've gotten older. I mean, I heard you say before we jumped on that you have lower back issues, and so do I. I have a herniated disc, and my L5S1, which massage is a great business to be in.
When you have that, yep.
But it's so true, and I think we don't learn that lesson early enough in life, that the more you take care of yourself consistently, the better you're going to be able to show up for your dreams and your goals and the people that you love and the things you want to accomplish. And so if we can play a small part in that for people's lives, that's all worth it.
I think that's an incredible way to kind of transition ourselves into kind of the future aspect. I always bring this kind of element into our conversations with owners and entrepreneurs, just because I want to give our listeners a chance to be able to help all your businesses, because you in particular have multiple. I'd love to just talk about goal setting. I'd also love to talk about a couple of things that my wife will kick me if I don't ask you, because she was excited about hearing from you as well. One of them is growth and expansion with brick and mortar, and maintaining that, and how you any tips or tricks that you might have on that key issue. But again, I'd love to hear about goals for not only Squeeze, but some of these other businesses as well.
Sure. So as I mentioned, we have about 75 locations in development right now. We intend and hope to grow Squeeze to over 500 locations around the country. We definitely feel like this is a staple experience that should be a part of everyone's wellness routine, and hope to make that happen in the next 5 to 7 years. So I guess I'll just do a little shameless plug that if you are at all interested in franchising or owning your own business and being a part of this, squeezemassage.com/franchising has all the detail. And that's probably been one of the most rewarding parts for me in building this business, is just partnering with amazing entrepreneurs and getting the chance to support their dreams. And and obviously, seeing Squeeze pop up in all these different communities is a real pinch me moment for me each time we open a new door. So and definitely check out too, if Squeeze is in your community, you can download the app and, book and experience it for yourself. As it relates to just scaling brick and mortar, for those who might be listening who have similar businesses or who are aspiring to do something along these lines, I would say that determining whether or not you want to franchise your own business, there are a slew of questions that are really important to understand and know the answers to before making that decision. But one of the key pieces of advice that I was given early on, which I really appreciated, was an advisor said to me, if you want to run HR and operations heavy business, open corporate owned doors. If you want to run a sales and marketing business, franchise. And my background is in marketing, and that really spoke to me, because we are ultimately partnering with our franchisees. Are the operators, right? They are true operations professionals, and our responsibility to them, and to your question around how do you really scale, is providing solid documentation and flawless training, the access to the team to help support them as they're up and running. And so systems are incredibly important in franchising, and being able to be organized from that standpoint, and, kind of have all of the answers to every possible question that could go wrong.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of tedious work, as well as just the experience. So, you need to make sure that you've got enough operational experience to support those who would be following in your footsteps. And then I guess as it relates to OK Humans and Brightside, we certainly have the intention of scaling those businesses as well. They're incredibly unique in their own spaces. OK Humans is, really trying to make talk therapy accessible and affordable, and destigmatizing, the negativity around seeking help for your mental health. And, I think that, at least for me, therapy has been a staple in my life for many, many years, particularly after starting all these businesses. And I think only goes to help improve yourself and those around you. And so, we have licensed professionals who are all there to help support people through the ups and downs of life, which is also a reality. None of us can escape that, unfortunately. And then Brightside is an infrared yoga and sauna concept, really celebrating, the power of yoga and the ancient practice that comes with it, along with infrared and the benefits, which are endless as well. But, ultimately detoxifying, helps your metabolism. It's an incredible experience. And what's cool about Brightside is it's both an infrared yoga room where you can have a traditional yoga class, and then there's 4 infrared saunas, so you can choose sauna experience or yoga. And that's a really fun brand. I particularly love it because it's full of bright colors, and really represents the brightness, the lighter and brighter, aspect of you that you feel after yoga and or sauna. So these are all just, our way of making hopefully a small little feel good mark on the world.
Absolutely. You can definitely tell in those unique spaces too, like each one has their own kind of unique factors and what they bring to the table for you as an entrepreneur, and what you have to allow yourselves to, again, put in the systems to allow for this franchise method to go forward and be fruitful in that sense. I love, again, thank you for giving us that little tidbit of like, setting up those systems is important. What you value most is that either you want to be HR or do you want to do the other side of it. And I'd love to just kind of ask really quickly, because I love this question that she would kick me if I didn't ask this, is fundraising. And that was something that came across our table in your bio as well. And understanding what the importance of it, the value of it, what do you feel like is probably, give us like one of the most biggest tips that you could provide for someone who is like myself. I'd love to be able to do a fundraising opportunity for our podcast. What would be my first step, or what would be kind of the important questions to ask?
Sure. Yeah. Fundraising is obviously critical to understanding ultimately what you need to achieve where you're going. For brick and mortar experiences in particular, there's obviously so much upfront capital that is required. So it probably takes a little bit more of a nuanced approach than potentially some other businesses. But I would say that when you are going out to raise money, what is most important is that you understand that investors are investing in you. While they may be very excited about the business and space that you are operating within, it doesn't exist yet, and or if it does, it's on a very small scale. What they are really needing to see, and the confidence that needs to be instilled in them is you, and how you're going to show up every single day, and why you believe what it is you're doing can get to where you think it can go.
Yeah.
And I think it's also important to know too that investors are smart business people, and at the end of the day, they understand it's a risk. So as long as you can provide a solid plan and a financial picture of where do you think the business can go, and you partner with people who you really feel align with your values. I think that's the other thing that's so important, is to not just take a check, but ensure that anyone who is getting equity in your business and potentially has any type of say in how you grow and develop, that they are aligned with what matters most to you. But probably most importantly is just try it, like go for it. I think it's like raising money it's nuanced, and it takes a lot of time, and you're not always going to get it right. You get far more no's than you do yeses, but the more you have the conversations, the easier it becomes, and the more you recognize too, who you want to partner with and who you don't. So it's kind of like anything, familiarity trumps fear. So just get out there and start doing it.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for allowing this amazing conversation with you, Brittany. I've learned so much too. I mean, honestly, I have a lot of people who come through our doors, and just again, we learn so much from them, and you're one of them. And so I hope to meet you in person one day. This has been fantastic for me, and I hope that if you ever end up come out to Phoenix and share a little bit of your time there, I'd love to meet you face to face and give you my little tour of our neck of the woods, and just show you around a little bit. So at the end here, we do leave it to you to let everyone know where they can find you online. I know you gave a little bit about the app and everything like that, but if there's any events that Squeeze is particularly holding on to, or we're going to be announcing, I'd love to hear about that as well. If you know the address off the top of your head, go ahead and do that as well. So the floor is yours, Britt.
Amazing. Well, I would say that head to @Squeeze on Instagram. We put all of our, fun happenings there, so you can stay up to date with openings and events. SqueezeMassage.com has all of our information on membership, booking. And actually for the Arizona market, I'm actually going to be popping up at the Powerhouse Women's event, which
we know Lindsay personally. We've had her on the show.
Yes. So I'm pretty sure tickets are still on sale for that. So, if that's at all interest for women, I would absolutely love to see you. I'll be there both days, Friday and Saturday. Really looking forward to that.
Awesome.
And otherwise, I would say, Instagram and the site is the best way to stay up to date on all the details of the brand.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, I wish you all the best of luck, and I know you're going to do fine over at the Powerhouse Women. That's going to be a lot of fun for you. But thank you again personally from allowing myself and my wife, to go ahead and use Squeeze for our a little use of like going in and experiencing the whole thing. And that was a lot of fun. Again, I cannot suggest this enough to people listening. Go and experience this brand new way of personalization to a massage. And I will catch you the next episode, everyone listening. But we do have our little outro here. You can hear every episode of our podcast at findingarizonapodcast.com. All our social media handles is under Finding Arizona Podcast. Last but not least, if you want to send us an email, findingarizonapodcast@gmail.com. That is the end of this episode. And as always, kisses, hugs, and belly rubs to our four-legged friends. We will see you next time. Easy peasy.